You're listening to the Mike on the Right podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to the Mike on the Right show. Release date December 29th, 2025. This is episode 35, and it is the last episode of 2025 of this year. Thank you so much for being here and joining me. And yes, I am always broadcasting from the heart of the heartland in central Indiana, the crossroads of America, the great Hoosier State. Continue to like, share, subscribe, 5-star ratings. You can find this episode and all others, whether you want to listen to the audio or watch the video on YouTube. MikeOnTheRight.com will take you to all those platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your podcasts. There we are. Thank you for joining me in the last episode of 2025. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Myself and my family, we had a great Christmas with family and with friends. This has been such a positive and encouraging season for us in the midst of all the things going on in life, from everyday life and job stuff and getting ready to have twins here in mid-February. We are so thankful and excited for all that the Lord has done, and we hope that you had a wonderful, joyous, restful time this Christmas season as we approach the new year. And before I get into kind of what I want to talk about in this show for the end of the year, and to try to put things in perspective and hopefully end on a high note, even though there'll be some things about adversity and things we've dealt with in 2025, I do want to encourage you in this new year. People often use this time to reset and make resolutions and to kind of set a new path forward. And those are all good things, looking to the past of the blessing and the pain, and using that for a directional shift or change or even solidification in the new year. And I am so excited for each and every one of you on that path and on that journey, whether it's about your health or it's about your job or it's about your life or your education or any of those things. I want to wish you a prosperous new year, and we'll talk about more about that in the first episode of the year in 2026. You know, for us, this has been super challenging time and a positive time. We're having twins, which is a blessing and will be a challenge. Going from 1 to 3, I've, continued to look for the right job and position. I very sadly put my trust in a person who could not keep promises to me and to others, and that brought me to where I am now. I wouldn't have left where I was because I wasn't looking for a job when I re-entered the State House, and that was, you can get fixated on that and live in unforgiveness and all those things, but it has really put us on a path. I don't want to get into it, but the Lord has blessed us in so many ways the second half of the year, and it's hard to see kind of even in the moment. And then we kind of look back at it, and we're looking as we plan for 2026, especially with the twins, of the amount of blessings and the position we are is far better spiritually, economically, together as a family and in our marriage, stronger than we were 6 months ago. Even though there's that point of distrust that was created by the individual that I worked for by making a lot of promises he couldn't keep. And that's, and again, I don't want to get into that because I don't want to be sour, but what I want to use that as a testimony, as it's going to hurt, and it doesn't, you don't want to hear it. It's going to hurt, and it's going to be better. And things will get better over time. And for us, we don't live in unforgiveness. We forgive, and we've moved on, and we've buried hatchets. It doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you don't be careful and adjust and watch and those kind of things, but it does get better. And seriously, 6 months later, I couldn't think of a better place for our life to be, even though there's struggles sometimes day in and day out and feelings and those kind of things. But ultimately, looking back at 2025, just kind of the refocusing of our life and what that's going to look like in 2026 with jobs and twins and all kinds of things. I just want to encourage you. It does get better. It's hard to hear in the moment because of the Christianese and all those things, but it does. It does. In the end, we are all the bad things are redirected for our good by our Lord. And so I encourage you with that. And we'll talk more about that in 2026 as time goes on. But I do want to talk about, this episode is about framing 3 major stories in 2025 that are going to shape 2026. And I'm going to move as quickly as I can to keep us on time. The first being the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I predicted as a JFK moment, and what are the things that have come out of that have been for good, and what are some of the struggles in that need to be watched for in 2026? How is it reshaping our nation, our politics, our way forward? Then we're going to talk about the recent economic news that has come out here just recently about our GDP and the state of our economy and the state of jobs and unemployment, and why that looks to be a positive, to create a positive outlook in 2026. And finally, what American strength has done in this last year to reset the world stage, militarily, economically, what we do, what we say, who we are, and why does that really set a positive tone for the strength of our nation in 2026. Let's start with the Charlie Kirk matter. We all know that earlier this year, Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a coward who took Charlie's life far, far, far too early in Charlie's walk and testimony and career. And it was someone who spoke truth, hard truth, in love, but direct and firm. And he has been labeled so many things, so many bad things, but he's been praised for so many things. And there's clearly, it shows kind of the divide in America today. And I don't want to get into all of the minutia of that, but of course, you know, the guy that killed him, and all the conspiracies around that, and all the continuing investigation and theories, and the rise of Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA. There's a lot of encouraging things. In the months since his assassination, TPUSA has seen a surge in support, a surge in membership across the land, in colleges and universities and ancillary organizations, because what he stood for was so just it was tough, right? Speaking the truth can be hurtful to people. It can be offensive to people that don't want to hear it, that already have a preconceived notion, who don't want to offend. Sometimes the truth is offensive, and now you have to be careful of how you say it. Not all of us do it all right all the time. I know I certainly don't. But the truth is the truth, no matter how you feel about it. And you can't bury your head in the sand. You can't turn your head away. And that was what he stood for, what he did. And it has shaped a generation. Since that time, since September, it has shaped a generation moving forward. Now, can that sustain? Will be the thing. And here's kind of why I want to talk about this. The good fruit is we are seeing young people clinging to truth. Not republicanism, not conservatism. This is not a political message in the framing of it. It's showing that there is a generation of young people who are craving the truth. Now, politically, I believe that truth stands with conservative ideology, certainly. But it shows that there are young people who are hungry for truth. They are hungry for civil but firm debate. They are hungry for a move of God. They are hungry for a move in this nation, in this land, that one day they will absolutely 100% run and control. The future is not just theirs now, it is also obviously theirs moving forward. And as they get older, and as they become the largest voting bloc, and as they become the parents and the grandparents, it will all be theirs one day. And they're seeking truth at a young age, and that's so positive. Because that's exactly what Charlie Kirk would have wanted for each and every one of them. And it's amazing how, I wish he was here today speaking truth. I wish he was there today speaking the gospel. I wish he was there today speaking into the political rifts in our nation. But his voice after his passing has never been stronger, has never been more heard, and has never been more important than right now. And we have to continue to amplify that voice. But what we have to be careful of is other folks and organizations, and both on the left and the right, from hijacking that legacy for their own devices. The left is going to want to continue to, hey, yeah, he's just a bigot, he was just a homophobe, and he was just this and that. And of course, when you cut it down to sound bites, you can make it sound whatever you want to sound like. But again, I always tell you, go back and do your research. I don't care if you don't like what Charlie Kirk had to say. If you didn't like what he had to say, that is a perfectly valid position. But go back and listen to all of it. Don't just listen to the 5-second sound bite on CNN. Don't just listen to Rachel Maddow. Don't just listen to the people who hated him and just like will cut it and regurgitate it for you too. They'll like read you part of a transcript and then tell you what they don't do that. Don't listen just to me and tell you. Go back and listen to the source and all of it. Uncut, unfiltered, read full transcripts, do all those things. I encourage you to do all of that on Charlie Kirk and anything else. Because that's where the truth lies. But there are people who are grifting off of his death on both sides. And we're seeing it right here in Indiana. Indiana lost, and look, Indiana did not redistrict. Some people say that's a victory. Some people say that's a defeat. Take that for what you will. I have always been of the position that Indiana's maps are great. The entire nation should absolutely live on the process that our maps created, or that the process that created our maps. But there's a lot of states that aren't, and so we can't play by higher ground rules that are going to end up hurting us in the end, which is why I trusted the General Assembly to redistrict in the way that Indiana needed to lead on the national stage, because states like Massachusetts and things like that, what's going on in New Hampshire and what's going on in liberal states, what's going on in California, taking the independent commission, independent quote unquote, and taking it away from them temporarily so they can draw maps to, this whole remapping war. That's my position. But I don't want that to affect this. But what I'm saying is that there is now a group of people who claim to be a part of TPUSA or ancillary organizations who are like, now those state senators, we have to hold them accountable. And gosh darn it, they're going to make us spend a bunch of money keeping them accountable. And that's probably how we're going to lose the House of Representatives, the National House of Representatives in 2026. By them making us keep them accountable, we're going to have to waste a bunch of money, and it's their fault. Well, no. You can say what you will about the state senators and how they voted. I have encouraged many of them, who are dear friends, for their votes on both sides, because it takes a lot of courage to stand up, period. The fact that they've even stood up and run, and in the offices that they're in, takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of time. But what I'll say to you is that no, we should absolutely not be. That's like an abuser blaming the victim for making the abuser abuse them. You can say what you will. You want to run some primaries, runs people against people. That's fine. Primaries are primaries, whatever. But national organizations shouldn't, one, be coming in here and telling Hoosiers how our primaries are going to be. That's the Hoosiers' job. It is not somebody in New York and California or Pennsylvania or Minnesota. Now, we're going to hire consultants and there's going to be organizations. That all happens. And I've talked about that in a previous episode. I'm not going to rehash it. But we don't need outside influence to tell us how our primaries are going to be, nor to run them, unless somebody hires them from Indiana directly. But what I will also say is that, no, take those millions of dollars and comparatively, look, I'm not saying about Indiana's legislature is great. I love our process. You can say what you will about the people. I love a lot of them. Certainly some of them need to go. And that's not just about redistricting. That's just in general. But what I'd say to you is that no, we should take those millions of dollars and put them in congressional races across the nation to hold on to the majority. You're not going to pin. Nobody is going to take you seriously if it's like, we spent millions of dollars on Indiana state Senate races, which is why we lost the majority in Congress. No, we're going to lose the majority if we don't focus on affordability and legislation that actually matters to people and national security. All of those things are the things we need to focus on. So take that money, the Scott Presslers and all these other people, take that money, take that time. Don't spend it on a little legislative race in West Lafayette or Lake County or wherever you're going to come after, or rural area, right here. People are going to primary my state senator. That's not where those millions of dollars need to go. Those millions of dollars need to go to congressional races across the nation that were already going to be tight. And if we're not careful about our messaging, are going to get tighter and away from us. And that war is going to shape 2026. Now, I don't believe that those organizations are going to be wildly successful. That's not a position that I hold just because I like them or don't like them, or I wanted redistricting or didn't want redistricting. I'm saying I think it's going to be difficult lift because Hoosiers aren't strong-armed that way most of the time. That doesn't mean you won't knock some people off. But Hoosiers are clearly not strong-armed. We have a history of not being strong-armed, even though we are conservatives. We are values-based, compassionate conservatives in Indiana, and we're not going to be bullied. That money can be better spent on congressional races, but that battle between legislative races like this, and if there's any others in any other states, that little battle versus no, let's redirect our time and money and energy to congressional races that we can win if we put that money there and put that time there. I'm telling you right now, Indiana is not going to take the blame for losing the House of Representatives in 2026. It's going to be people who are politicking on revenge rather than strategy. And I don't want to take the rest of the show to talk about this, but I'm telling you, that's going to shape 2026's elections. There's the discussion of the topics, but also the process and the strategy. And I hope we don't get hung up on that. And I'm calling those TPUSAs and ancillary organizations on the good side and on the grifters to, you know what, you're going to make plenty of money if you just go play some congressional races. Don't come in here and bully Hoosiers and then blame us for your bad bullying tactic. You'll have a losing strategy. You'll lose anyway. Indiana won't be that greatly affected, and we'll move forward. And then we'll have to rebuild and reshape. We have an opportunity to hold the House of Representatives, but we have to do it with smart strategy, and it's not about revenge politics. It's about affordability. It's about energy. It's about national security. It's about protecting our children and reshaping our educational system and reshaping our healthcare system. Let's spend the money telling those successes and those plans and stories for 2026. No more, no less. Let's talk the next thing. The death of the economy is greatly exaggerated, but it is on the edge. We have seen in 2025 a wild ride with tariffs being added in America to reshape the trade strategy and the trade foundation across the world, just not the nation, but across the world. We saw a contraction of our economy in the first part of 2025, because not that the actual economy slowed down, it's because a bunch of people did a huge amount of imports prior to tariffs to get their inventories up. But the economy didn't actually shrink. It's one of those numbers that's like, oh, if these imports go way up, it actually brings the number down. But we didn't actually lose momentum in the economy. There was just a number that threw that higher. And of course, after that, the economy has been humming and singing. We've been making money on tariffs. Of course, we still have to get and hold the line on spending in this nation. That's still one of the things. But quarter two and quarter three, especially these quarter three numbers, 4.3% annualized GDP growth rate is amazing and impressive. And the experts were stunned again, because it's always the economic experts and those at the newspapers and all these things that are doom and glooming in this economy, and the Michael Hicks at Ball State University who are going to tell us we're just one wrong step away from everything just crashing to the ground. And then they get stunned and like, well, it's actually the next step. It's the same people that continue to predict the earth ending or trying to foreshadow the coming of Jesus Christ. It's like that episode of Parks and Rec and the weird alien people, and he gets in his book and they're looking to calendar it, and the park is used on a certain day. So he actually I misread it. It's actually the end of the world that we're predicting is the next week. It's that same thing from those Michael Hicks and those economists, whatever. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't smart. I'm not saying that they don't bring value. I'm not saying that they don't bring a good commentary and good work to data, but they have constantly been wrong in 2025. And now we see this huge annualized rate far beyond what the experts thought. But we've also seen the job numbers kind of stagnate, and we know that is from the data points to it, and it proves that the Fed are the ones that kind of messed up that by the job market by keeping interest rates high, which kept companies who wanted to grow, who had plans and who had the momentum, but couldn't afford to borrow to grow their companies to add jobs. And so we saw that kind of crest. And the only job losses that we've mainly had have mostly been in government. In the previous quarter, in October, the jobs number was a 105,000 job loss, but 162,000 of those jobs were federal government jobs tied to workforce cuts, which means the actual non-government economy actually grew. And so when you look, then November had a $64,000 job increase, and we're starting to see as those kind of lower, we're starting to see that plateau, and that we were right on the crest of that to pop up. And let me tell you something else. It's not just the conservatives saying this. CNN is telling us right now, oh my goodness, we actually are compelled to tell the real story. CNN is admitting that housing and mortgage relief is coming to America in 2026 through their own stories, because they're seeing the drop. So the Fed is dropping rates, which is going to help the economy. It's going to help. Now, we have to watch inflation. There's some things that still need to be done. But that transitionary inflation that the Biden administration and Yellen told us it was going to happen, and then it spiked and created this platform of high prices. And then we've slowed that growth of increase in the Trump administration with what's been going on. But CNN is now saying, well, with these lower interest rates, now, your mortgages aren't necessarily tied to the Fed rate, but what it is tied to more directly is Treasury yields. And eventually those are going to start coming down too as the economy continues to hum and as inflation hopefully continues to come down, which we saw a drop that the experts were stunned. And it's like, well, it's because the government was shut down, and that you can't use these numbers. There's always something wrong with the numbers that look good, and there is always something right with the numbers that look bad, which tells you that the experts are both stunned and disingenuous. But CNN is predicting, because there's going to be large predicted growth in take-home pay, there's going to be a lower set of interest rates, there's going to be a recovery in the housing market in 2026. CNN is telling us right now that we think it's going to happen. They're trying to hedge their bet for all the crap they told us was going to go wrong in 2025. That's going to shape 2026. It's going to shape our pocketbooks. It's going to shape our economy. It's going to shape our homes. That data at the end of the year. Now we'll see what Q4 looks like. Obviously, consumer confidence is getting lower and lower, but that's because the media continues to tell us how bad things are, and we're just one step away, and the economists were just one step away, and then they're wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong. I think we just had, if I read in Q3, some record consumer growth, or at least consumer spending increase. And we'll see what Q4 brings with Christmas and all those things. And of course, the economy is transitioning outside of brick and mortar to online economies. We're seeing all these layoffs and all these things. Like, no, technology always shifts jobs and shifts companies. And that's why Amazon is the biggest retailer. And it's not, these brick and mortar, the economy shifts in the economy as the market moves them is not an indicator of a bad economy. So don't buy that either. But 2026 looks poised to be a great economic year if it all continues as is. We've got to both tell that story and articulate our plans for the future and stop revenge politics. That's how the story and the plans get out and move forward in the 2026 midterms. And it affects every part of your everyday life. If you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to refinance, if you're looking for another job, if you're looking to get more money in your job, whatever it is, if you're looking to go on a vacation, or there's going to be some momentum in 2026 if this data continues down the path. Don't listen to the experts. They're clearly always stunned. Last item I have for you today as we close this episode is America's strength has reset the world stage. The policies related to the foreign policy of the Biden administration hurt America. There's a reason why the war in Ukraine started, was weakness in America to stop them. There's a reason why we had huge numbers of people coming across our borders illegally. Because they knew that the Biden administration was going to play virtue signal rather than enforce the law and do what's best for Americans and those trying to come across legally. We have seen a huge reset on the world stage that the United States can continue to tell a good story and can continue to do that reset and to grow its image and to grow its influence. And what are those situations? Obviously, we continued to support Israel in the Gaza war. And we should continue to do that. Now that is largely over, we need to continue to support Israel, and we did. And that showed the world that we are willing to stand alone. for what is right. We bombed Iran's nuclear sites. And for years, the Obama administration really screwed us with the deal. We gave them a bunch of cash and money in exchange for not developing nuclear weapons, and then they did it anyway. And then Trump said, hey, this is a bad deal. We're resetting it. And the whole world, oh, I can't believe it. This is all going to be Trump's fault. And he followed through. Okay, hey, you know what? We have reset. You have one chance to fix this. They didn't fix it. We took out those major nuclear sites. They are decades behind where they were. We are stopping the flow of drugs into America through taking out these drug boats. And it's amazing to watch, especially the left and even a little bit of the center, to take the side of narco-terrorists around the world over those neighbors who are addicted and affected, and the shadow economy that is created through the drug trade. They've taken the side of narco-terrorists simply because Trump decided to take the battle to them rather than dealing with it on our streets, which we still need to do, and he is still doing. But trying to stop, there's a reason why. The same thing, we always say, we engage in conflicts around the world so that they don't happen on our soil. This is the exact same thing, and it's amazing to watch libertarians and Democrats and hippies. We don't want war. We don't want this. And I am not beating the drum to go to war all the time, or really ever. War's bad. But I would certainly rather have the battle fought somewhere else than fought on our soil and on our streets and in our backyards and by our neighbors. I want our military and those folks who have volunteered to stand up for this nation to go take care of it before it gets here. And that's exactly what's been going on with narco-terrorism. And it's amazing to watch the left attack that. It's amazing. We're securing the border. Record low crossings. Finally enforcing the laws that currently exist. And the courts actually supporting the power that the president has been given by Congress. That is always like, oh, I can't believe he's doing this. This is all unconstitutional and wrong. No, it's the laws they wrote. No president, none of the Republicans prior to Trump were willing to enforce most of it. The pressure on Venezuela. I do not support boots on the ground in Venezuela. I'm okay blockading them. I'm okay keeping them from selling their oil. And it's not just about regime change. They are they are going to support terrorism. Again, narco-terrorism. And they are part of that axis with Cuba and with China and with Russia. And no, I do not want them to succeed. But I do not support troops on the ground. But we can continue to put pressure. We continue to show our teeth and our strength to get them and force them into alignment. And the bombing of terrorists in Nigeria that just occurred, the ones that are killing their own people and attacking Christians. What does this mean? Now Russia and Ukraine is far from over. We do not need to back Russia. We need to stymie the movement of Vladimir Putin. We need to slow down his creep into the world. We need to knock out his agenda because a strong America stands up to bullies like that. That's the one that's still out there. It's an unfinished piece, and I'm calling on us to fix it. But the reason I'm talking about this as we close is because that strength on the world stage keeps America safe and secure. I know people are like, well, what about Iraq? And what about Afghanistan? What about... There are good things and there are mistakes that have been made across time in America. But putting this battle, all these battles somewhere else, rather than on our soil, is right, is good. I'm not calling for war in everything. I'm not calling for force in everything. But our strength, peace through superior firepower, peace through strength, that's how we get there. We put the pressure on first, diplomatically, and then showing our teeth, and then if necessary, bombing places like Iran. That's how we do it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And all these pro-liberty people that'll tell you, you have to be pro-liberty, you've got to be anti-war. Well, of course, everyone's anti-war. Nobody wants a war. But if the choice is war on Elm Street, on Main Street, or in Main Street America, or putting a bomb in Iran and blowing up a nuclear site, every single day of the week that ends in Y, that's what I'll do. Because that's best for my children and my grandchildren one day, and my family and my wife and everybody. That's it. So anyway, those are the three stories that I think are going to shape our 2026. Past, present, and future. We've seen what happened with Charlie Kirk that is affecting today. We're seeing numbers right now in the economy that are affecting the future, and we are seeing the strength of America returning to the world stage in foreign policy that is going to shape the direction of ourselves and the world for decades to come. My friends, thank you so much for listening. God bless each and every one of you. I can't wait to join you in the new year. MikeOnTheRight.com, this episode and all others. Continue to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for a wonderful 2025 and walking with me on this journey. Have a great week.